Hi everyone! So today I'm going to be demonstrating Indian block printing. So I'm going to be talking through the equipment you need, I'm going to talk through design ideas and working through your design, making sure it's, it all comes out well. And then as part of this, I'm going to be doing a printing project and I'm going to be printing a table runner. So in the same design as this tea towel, which is a hair and seed head design, so it works really well on this tea towel. I'm going to be doing this on a table runner, but this design and technique I'm going to be using is totally transferable to kind of other items such as tea towels, wash bags, tote bags, and I'll show you different ideas as we go along, but I'm going to be printing a table runner. So the paints I'm using are a water-based fabric paint. They are totally permanent once you've printed your fabric and then heat set it, which you do with an iron, but they are water-based, which just means they clean off your equipment really easily. So that's what I'm going to be using. If you've got any fabric paints at home, you can use them, or even acrylics, and you just add a textile medium to them. They're also good for using. So what we're going to do is the design that I've chosen is this meadow and seed head. Kind of like this is using the seed heads and the leaves of the meadow, and then you've got the hair jumping through. Now I really liked it going, just on each side of the tea towel and having this nice clean white space in the middle. You could always fit it in with different little blocks, but I really liked how contemporary it was just going down the sides. So this is what I did on a tea towel. I also had a go and did the same design on this little zip wash bag, and that worked really well on there. So it's definitely transferable to different fabric items. And again, this was just printed using the fabric paint and the same design idea. So with this in mind, so this is what I know that we're going to print, you want to have a practice. So this is a bit of a random design, it hasn't been too thought out. When you're printing, you can add and change blocks, but you want to kind of know what you're doing. So what I do is I've got a piece of practice fabric here. Now it's about the same kind of width and size as as what I'm going to be working on. So you always get something that's a similar size. Always practice on something that's a similar size so that you can kind of figure out how much space you've got. So this obviously is a bit shorter than my tea towel, but it's about the same width as half the tea towel. So this works well for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a go at putting my blocks together on here and just working out a rough design. So I'm going to start at one end and just build the pattern up, and you'll see very easily how I do that. So I'm just going to use the seed head. So I'm going to use this little hem bit as the bottom. And I'm just going to figure out where I want my placing to be so that I know that the design works. Obviously, I've trialed this before as I printed my tea towel. But when I was starting to print my tea towel, I practiced lots to make sure that the design was coming together. I also changed a couple of the colours and where I placed the blocks just to make sure it was all working well. So with this one, I'm going to get myself into a bit of a pattern. So I've done the kind of cow parsley one, and now I'm going to do the allium seed head. I'm going to go for a little leaf. And this is what you want to be doing at home. So you don't have to copy me at all. You can do any layout you want. I've just practiced this one so I know it works for me. So you can figure out your own at home. But it's really good to just test the spacing and just make sure you're happy with the design, like I said. So I'm now going to do the hair here. And I'm going to slightly overlap him on the other prints. And I really like the overlapping effect. I think it can look really good. And it means you don't always have too much white space in the middle. So I've got that there. I flower in. And I might do another overlap there. put that a little bit higher. I think I might just put another hair on the bottom there. So if you have any gaps or anything, you know, when you're printing and you find that you've got a little gap, you've got a variety of blocks. So it's quite good to have some bigger ones and then some small ones, because then if you find any gaps, you can fill them in using your little box. So it's always good to have a range of sizes when you've got blocks. And just change the angles that you're printing in, because that always adds a kind of different effect. If you're changing the blocks around, the kind of, you know, which way you're placing them, it just brings something different, so it doesn't look too orderly. It looks kind of free flowing. See there, that's really starting to come together. Couple more prints, and then I think I'll be very happy with my design and ready to move on to the table runner. So I need to find another hair. I did my one there, one at the bottom, so now I'm going to go up again. And just always making sure you're on that foam mat. If you slip off or anything, make sure you move back on, because if you come off your foam mat and start printing, it can leave you with a bit of a wobbly design. Going to slightly overlap again, so I'm using a light colour on top of the hair, just so I know I'm not going to cover the purple. And then let's put a little flower there. And there we have it. So really easily you can see that I've managed to practice my design. I've come up with a really nice pattern that I know is going to work on my table runner, and I feel happy with how that's come out. You know, at this point you could then make any changes or change any colours if you feel something isn't working, but really make sure you practice your design idea so that you know it's all going to come together. I have ironed my table runner, and I have already printed half of this earlier, just because it is quite long and takes a while, so you don't want to be watching me for hours just printing this, because also it'll make you quite jealous that you're not doing it yourself. So this is the table runner. Now this is a linen cotton blend. It's a lovely quality table runner. It's quite long. The dimensions are all on the website, so you can see. I don't know them off by heart, but I've ironed this just to make sure there's no creases. So like I said, I've already printed one side, so you can see there, and I did exactly the same as the practice. So I'll show you on this next bit, but I always have my practice in front of me, and it's this very similar design I followed. So I'm going to turn the camera around again, and we'll get printing the other side of this lovely table runner. Always make sure you're on your foam mat. Obviously this is quite long, so I'm just going to keep shifting it. I'm going to start from the opposite side. I'm printing upside down, so that's why it seems a little bit odd. It might take me a bit of time to get the spacing right, but it's easier for you to see if I'm printing upside down. So I'm going to change my paints to this side of me. Now with something like this, I told you earlier we were going to use masking tape. Now what I'm going to do is on the hemmed edge, I really like keeping this nice and clean. So all the way around your design, you've got a nice clean edge. So I use masking tape just to block that off. And then it catches any paint that might go over and just gives you a nice, clean, professional finish. And just to let you know that I haven't pre-washed this fabric or anything, it's come straight from the box. So you don't need to pre-wash any of your fabric. You can just print it straight away. You just wash it after you've printed, but you don't need to wash it to take anything off it at first. So like I showed you, so with our practice piece, and remember, like I said earlier, you've got to practice your design. You've got to know roughly what you're going to do. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect, because with this kind of design, I kind of change it as I go along, and if there's a gap bigger than I thought there'd be, you can put in a smaller block, but you want to have a rough idea, so always have that in front of you so you can see what you're doing. So I'm going to slightly follow this pattern, not to the T, because there will be some changes, and sometimes if if I'm trying to follow this exactly, I can get a little bit lost. So you want to have a little bit of kind of freedom to do what you want, but also know what you're going to do, if you see what I mean. So let's get started. Now, you may notice when I'm doing this, I tend to stick to similar colours. So I always do the hair in the purple, and then the rest of the colours I can vary a little bit, but mostly stick to the same ones. Put that down. And that's just so it's got some consistency to it, but you can change them, mix them up. You could do the hairs in lots of different colours, but for this design, just to keep it nice and sort of simplistic and contemporary, I'm going to stick to the same colours. So it's exactly the same. Now, when you're printing different materials, sometimes they do print differently. You know, this was a white cotton I had earlier, which absorbs the paint very quickly. This is a thicker weave kind of linen cotton blend. So this almost takes a little bit longer for the fabric to take. So just get used to doing different things. I showed you earlier I printed this zip wash bag. Now this is a very heavy, almost canvas cotton. So for this sort of material, I always hold the block down for like 5 or 6 seconds longer than I normally would, so the paint really has a chance to absorb. So that's really important. Once you finish printing, so obviously in between printing with different colours, you just wipe the block to get the paint off the edges. Or if you're printing lots, you can wash them under the tap. So say I just kept printing this leaf over and over again, it started to get clogged up. Well, then what you do is get some hot soapy water and a nail brush and just wash it out. And then also at the end of the day, I always wash the printing blocks. So once I finish printing this, I'll put them in a bowl of hot soapy water, give them a good wash and clean out, and then dry them off and put them away again for next time. So in between different colours, you just wipe them, but at the end of the day you always wash them under the tap, and that just gets all the paint out the detail so that nothing like builds up in there and clogs your blocks up, because obviously they are very detailed, some of the designs, and if paint dries in the detail it will start to clog it up. And with this sort of design, you just need to make sure that you're not missing any designs out, because sometimes you can go a while and then think, oh God, I haven't put the leaf in for a while. So just make sure you keep using each block, and that will keep the design flowing really well. As you can see, this is going to make a gorgeous table runner, and something you could use inside or outside in the garden. Like obviously I'm hoping the good weather's going to come back and we're going to be having plenty of alfresco dining, so I'm looking forward to being able to use this in the garden, but also in the house it's going to work really well. So again, move it along. So my masking tape again. Now I'm getting into the rhythm of this. You can see it's not taking too long to print. Obviously it's not going all over this design. We're just sticking to the edge. But it's coming together really quickly, and it's lovely. Once you get into a block printing rhythm, you'll find it goes really quick once you find your kind of design and pattern. So the paint that I'm using is our Blockcraft fabric paint. So they just come in little pots with silver lids. They're 50ml. And you can get these online. We do deals where if you buy more than one, you get a discount. But these fabric paints that we're using, these are for light fabrics. So these paints are kind of for calico and white cottons, and then, you know, just light shades. You could get away with light blues and light pink fabric and stuff, but these paints are for light fabrics. If, for example, you want to print on something darker, so I've got some darker fabrics here, you know, pieces like this, you'd need to use a different sort of paint. So for fabrics that are darker, we sell a range of solid textile paints, and they are specifically for dark fabrics. So just bear that in mind, that you will need a particular type of paint if you're planning to print dark fabrics. Right, I'm squeezing the last couple on now. I would like to get one more hair at the bottom here, just right in the corner. So I need to make sure I leave room for that. And then you can see what you can do here. So I've just got a small space here, so you can just have a play around and see which designs would fit in there best. And because I've got a variety of sizes, I've got some bigger ones and smaller ones, you can always figure out, you know, a way to squeeze one more in, whether it's with a bigger design or a smaller design. So there we go, got to the end. Let me undo this and let's have a look. I'm just going to turn it round and just check that there's no more gaps that need filling in, because like I said, now at this point you can always go back and make any changes. Right, just check there's nowhere else I'd like to fill in. The little gap here, I think. And at the very beginning when we started, it's a little bit sparser here, less design. See here, it's a lot more built up, but here it's a little bit sparse. So let's find something to put in here. What we might do is a half flower print. So sorry guys, I know it's upside down, but I just need to be able to see. So I'm going to masking tape again, and then I'm just going to tap some paint on my flower, and I'm just going to do a half flower print, just to add something in that gap. There we go, that looks better. So there we have it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to leave this to dry for a little bit. It's got a little bit of a mark there, but I think that's from my mucky fingers. So that should come off in the wash. That will be fine. So yeah, we're going to leave this to dry just for a little bit. And then I'll get the iron and I'll show you just quickly how we'd heat set it. Right, so obviously under normal circumstances, you'd leave this now for an hour to dry, but I'm going to show you quickly how you'd iron it. I know mine actually is pretty much almost dry. It hasn't got any splodgy bits on, but I would recommend if you're at home to leave it for an hour. Now, I don't have my ironing board here, but I'm going to show you on the table. What you would do is you'd have your fabric face up, so paint is facing you on your ironing board. You take your iron. I iron on the hottest setting that the fabric can handle. So as this is cotton, I normally have it on the top setting, as I know it won't melt or anything. But obviously if you're doing something thinner or a silk, you'd have it on a lower setting. And I actually have mine on steam. The steam does not smudge the paint or anything, so it doesn't matter whether it's dry or steam, either will work. And like I said, the hottest setting possible. And then you iron all over the paint, just making sure it gets really, really hot. So each of those prints is going to be too hot to touch, and that direct heat is what's going to set your paint. Now obviously you want to wait an hour because you're going to be ironing all over. If there was any like wet bits still, you'd smudge it. So do make sure it's dry, but just iron over, like I said, as long as you can bear, so it's really hot, and that will set the paint. And then I'll hold it up, but you can see the finished table runner looks gorgeous. I'm so happy with it, and what I'll do is I will iron it properly, and then I'll put it in the wash so it's ready to be used. And like I said, this design is completely transferable to other items. You saw the tea towel I did earlier, and I've also done this zip wash bag, which looks really good, so you can have a go at home. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed block printing. Thanks very much. Bye.